Hello fellow nomads. Today we are in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, and if you're planning to visit this park, there's a few things you're going to need to know. In this video I'm going to show you exactly why you should not follow the GPS route depending on what campground you go to, and then I'm going to show you a couple of hacks that most people don't know about, but because we've been coming here for a long time, it's going to make your life a little bit easier as far as camping in either Cades Cove, Elk Mount, or Smoky Mountain. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's break down the campgrounds that we would suggest going for. The first one is Smoky Mountain. Smoky Mountain is in the North Carolina or the east side of the Smoky Mountain National Park. You get there through Cherokee. Cherokee is the gateway to 441 that eventually goes up and over the Smokies. Smoky Mountain is a little bit of a bigger campground. It's got a little bit bigger sites, but definitely some hiking opportunities. And one of our favorite hiking opportunities and trails out there is Cabin Ridge Trail. It's a flat, you hike next to the creek. It's a beautiful, beautiful trail. The trail takes you all the way over an old railroad trestle, and of course, eventually goes to Cabin Ridge Campground for backpacking. But if you just want to day hike it, Cabin Ridge Trail in Smoky Mountain is the way to go. We love Smoky Mountain. It's a little bit clear, and if you're running on solar, you may want to check out Smoky Mountain. To remember about all three campgrounds, Smoky Mountain, Elk Mount, and Cades Cove, is that they do not have hookups. They don't have any kind of real water. They don't have any electricity. There is a dump station, of course, but you're on your own. The boondocking part of it, if you're running on solar, is going to be a little bit tricky because there's a lot of trees in the Smokies and in these campgrounds, obviously. So solar is going to be a little bit of an issue. That's why we run our Predator 3500. We love that thing. It has kept up. It runs, you know, almost 11 hours a day. You can run your generators between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. That is the generator time use. Some of the generators I've heard are pretty loud, but our Predator, man, it hums. When we walk away from our campsite, you can't even hear that thing going. So we're really, really happy with it. Of course, the other place you want to check out if you're coming to the Smoky Mountains is Cades Cove. Cades Cove is a very popular campground. It's a big campground. It can handle almost any rig size. You do want to have to call and make reservations and make sure your rig can fit. There's a ranger station in actual Cades Cove, and you can get your backcountry permits if you want to check out the Anthony Creek Trail, which is straight up to the Appalachian Trail. It's about 3.7 miles, and it will definitely get your heart beating and make you suck a little air for sure. But there's other trails around Cades Cove. Cades Cove, of course, is a beautiful, beautiful area where you can actually drive, after you detach from your RV, and take the Cades Cove drive and see some wildlife. Cades Cove Campground is an awesome campground to go to, and one of our favorites. Of course, then we are in Elkmont Campground. Elkmont Campground is on the west side of the Smokies, and it is our favorite campground to camp in because of historical value and the trails you get to do. Now, Elkmont provides a very unique hiking and backpacking experience because you can take Jake's Creek Trail, which is part of an old railroad bed, or the Little River Trail, which is also part of the old railroad bed. Both trails offer some beautiful scenery. Both trails will eventually take you up to the Appalachian Trail, but it's a very nice, easy grade up, and you can really enjoy yourself on both of those trails, even for a day hike or for a backpacking trip, and just enjoy some of the old historical homes that used to be on both of those trails. So one of the reasons why we love Elkmont so much is that of its rich history. I mean, this street right here used to be a town, and it used to be called Daisy Town. And Daisy Town was a resort community that was built by the Appalachian Mountain Club in Knoxville, and the train came right through and would just drop passengers off to their summer homes. This is like going back in history and seeing how people lived and kind of celebrated the outdoors 100 years ago. What's really cool is that some of these homes still have their addresses on the wall or on the front of their home. Elkmont is the only campground that I know of in the United States that has its own zip code. So this wasn't just a campground. This was a place that a lot of people lived at, not only the railroad workers that were here to lumber. The Little River Lumber Yard was here. Then the Appalachian Mountain Club had their homes here. And so this was kind of a really diverse community, and it was a town. Daisy Town, Elkmont, the Little River Railroad. People lived here, and that's what makes it so special. About Cades Cove, Elkmont, and Smoky Mountain is all of them have first come first served sites. So when you make or try to make reservations online and you see nothing available, a lot of times there are sites available, and they hold those sites off of the reservation list so you can actually just come on in and ask if there's anything open. Now, the majority of the time, especially now in summer of 2020, that's almost impossible to get to. The reservation system, if you want to see the synchronous fireflies in Elkmont, you've got to start in January. So the Smoky Mountain National Park allows you to make RV reservations 6 months to the day in advance. So when January 1st rolls around at about 2 o'clock in the morning, if you want to see the synchronous fireflies, you better get up early and start making reservations for Elkmont if you want to see the synchronous fireflies. It is tough to get in around the end of May, beginning of June, and also not every site is going to be big enough for your rig, so make sure you make reservations early enough. Cades Cove is probably the same way. Smoky Mountain is a little bit different, and there are often sites available at Smoky Mountain. So, one of the other things you should know about coming to Elkmont or Cades Cove is that if you use RV Trip Wizard, do not follow their directions, which is one of the reasons why I'm not 100% sure about RV Trip Wizard. Let me read you specifically from the National Park Service and the Smoky Mountain National Park. So it says here, while GPS directions may route you to Elkmont via Lane Springs Road or Metcalf Bottom picnic area, RVs and towed trailers are not allowed over the bridge at Metcalf Bottoms due to narrow bridge and weight and length restrictions. Well, when we were planning our route, we used RV Trip Wizard, and guess what it did? It took us directly right over that bridge where we would have had to turn around and go all the way back. So instead, if you want to hack Elkmont or the Smokies, or you want to get to Cades Cove, you need to take 441 or 321 and take the Gatlinburg bypass. The Gatlinburg bypass is the way you want to go. It takes you right to the Sugarlands Visitor Center, and then at the stop sign you make a right and you're on your way to Elkmont or Cades Cove. But again, you want to double check the RV Trip Wizard directions and even Google Maps and your own GPS, because that will tell you it's the fastest route, but your RV is not going to be able to make it. So to get water in Elkmont, Cades Cove, or Smoky Mountain is a little bit tricky. So most of the time you have to fill up and then drag your 5 or 7 gallon drum or your container back to your RV. But I'm going to show you a way how you can make that a little bit easier for yourself. The bathrooms back here are all the same in all 3 campgrounds. You've got men's and women's, but then you have a like a water sink where you can actually do your dishes. It's just for gray water only. But let me show you something. As you can see, all the faucets at these campgrounds are threaded, which means you can attach a water hose to this faucet, turn on the faucet, and pump water all the way to your container A 50-foot hose, they block off so you can't drive right up to that water, but you can, if you have a 50-foot hose, you can pump water all the way in the back of your truck, which I would imagine most of you have, or your van like we have. And that is why we devised the pump situation, so we can pump 17 gallons of water in the back of our van, and then from the hose, and then we go to our Airstream and just pump it into our fresh water tank via a 12-volt pump. So that's an easier way to get water in the Smokies at Smoky Mountain, Cades Cove, or Elkmont, because all the water faucets are threaded and you can attach a hose to them.